know, sharing your adventures is an interesting experience.
There's a moment at the end of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade where Indiana is hanging over a bottomless void, chasing the Holy Grail. And then there's his father, who has spent his entire life chasing it too. And in that moment, he softly says the words,
Indiana, let it go.
And Indy does something here. He listens. Because this isn't just an adventure movie. It's a story about obsession, legacy, and the cost of never looking up from your life's work until it's almost too late. This is the Film History Network, where we talk about the movies that made us, the journey that it takes to bring those stories to screen, why those stories matter, why these characters still feel timeless after all these years. And I can't think of a character I would rather talk about when it comes to the movies than Indiana Jones. He's been my favorite movie character ever since I was 6 years old. And tonight, it's movie night here at Ford's. Yes, the bar we named after the man himself. I'm Matthew Charles Hall, filmmaker, film lover, film collector, and this is the story of how Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade elevates Indiana as a cinematic icon and launches him into the stratosphere of fortune and glory. This is one of the most personal blockbusters ever made. Directed by Steven Spielberg, produced by George Lucas, and starring our favorite leading man himself, Harrison Ford. But Last Crusade, the third movie in the franchise, isn't just a repeat of the prior film's successes. After the darkness of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Spielberg and Lucas felt they needed to recalibrate the formula. They went back to what had made Raiders work so well. Nazis, holy artifacts, the same sidekicks, although now they're promoted to larger roles, some with comedic relief. But Spielberg doesn't just rehash the same ingredients as so many sequels often do. The development of Last Crusade would be messy. Multiple writers took a shot at it. One version had Indy in a haunted castle, but Spielberg's involvement on Poltergeist would push this story away from anything too spooky and supernatural. Another draft leaned heavily into mythology, but lost the character. And then came Jeffrey Boehm. Boehm made one critical decision. Originally, Indiana Jones had been inspired by the suave, untouchable heroes of old Hollywood, men like James Bond. In fact, Spielberg had wanted to make a Bond film after the success of Jaws and Close Encounters. George Lucas, coming off of Star Wars, said, "I've got something better, but in that same tradition." Boehm paired that knowledge with his own idea of giving Indy a dad, and they'd cast James Bond himself, Sean Connery. And suddenly, with that decision, the myth of Indiana Jones now has a past. That made things personal for Spielberg. He's famously said that the father-son relationship in this film was influenced by his own relationship with his father. Distant, complicated, unspoken. It's Indiana Jones confronting his dad. And somehow, this massive, globe-trotting spectacle becomes one of the most intimate character stories in blockbuster history. The opening sequence, young Indy on a train, isn't just a pre-show prologue to the real adventure. It's a blueprint. It's introducing us to the mythology. This brief backstory gives us Indy's Boy Scout morality, the whip, the scar, the fear of snakes, and the hat, all in one sequence. River Phoenix as young Indy is perfect, Ford had picked Phoenix to play his own son in The Mosquito Coast some years prior. Here, he's one of the greatest pieces of character casting ever done. As for the story, well, the real adventure in this film, it's not the quest for the Grail. It's the relationship between Indy and his father. Sean Connery doesn't just play Indy's dad, he also redefines Indy's character, because suddenly Indy isn't the guy in control anymore. Now he's the sidekick, he's the kid, a frustrated son, a man who spent his life trying to live up to someone who never really noticed him. And here's the beauty of the whole thing. Indiana Jones, the man who spends the entire franchise understanding ancient languages, customs, and cultures, dodging traps and solving intricate riddles, that same guy can't even communicate with his own father. That's the movie. The Ark of the Covenant is one of the most famous MacGuffins in movie history, but this movie actually tops it in my book, because the Holy Grail in this film isn't just a MacGuffin. It's a test, not of strength, but of humility.
Or the cup that holds the blood of Jesus Christ resides forever.
In fact, Indiana Jones doesn't even want the Grail. He just wants his father's respect. And Henry Jones Sr., he might not want the Grail either. He's just lived his whole life without knowing how to stop chasing it. The last act of Last Crusade isn't about the action spectacle at all. It's about surrender. The trials that Indy faces aren't just set pieces. They're spiritual reckonings. Each trial strips Indy of what makes him Indiana Jones. Certainty, ego, control. And then all that's left is faith. And then we get to the final moments. The Grail Knight has been protecting the Holy Grail and its countless impersonators. Elsa chooses the wrong Grail. I always wondered myself if she did so deliberately, knowing she would trick Donovan, the film's villain played by Julian Glover. But the more I watch it, the more I realize that Elsa, played by Alison Doody, is operating on aesthetic assumption, not a spiritual understanding. She believes the Grail must be beautiful. It should look royal, valuable, worthy of Jesus Christ. The most elaborate cup must be correct. She's not trying to kill Donovan, she's trying to impress him and prove her own expertise. She's close to understanding, but not enough. Donovan takes the Grail from Elsa and quickly drinks from it. He chooses spectacle, power, myth. He chooses poorly. Indy chooses humility. Later, Elsa retrieves the real Grail but forgets the knight's warning. She stumbles and reaches for the falling cup because she's obsessed, and that obsession seals her fate. Then Indy reaches for the Grail because at this point he's obsessed, and Henry Jones Sr., the man who started it all, at that moment finally understands. He sees it clearly. It's not worth it. And that's the moment. Not when he finds the Grail, but when he lets it go. Because obsession, when it's that close, doesn't end easily. Because in the end, it's about choosing people you love over glory. It's not about finding the Grail. It's about finding what matters more than the Grail. In that moment, Indy's dad calls him by name for the first time in the entire movie. The name Indy chose for himself. He's finally recognized by his dad. And at that moment, Indy is no longer just a movie hero. He becomes relatable for so many of us watching the movie. He becomes human.
And what did you find, Junior?
Junior? Dad?
Please, what does it always mean, this Junior?
That's his name. Henry Jones Jr.
Like Indiana.
We named the dog Indiana.
Indy may not get the Grail in The Last Crusade, but tonight, here at Ford's, we're pouring him some redemption. And if you're choosing wisely, don't reach for the flashiest cup. We call this one the Holy Grail. We start with a 12-year scotch to honor Sean Connery, of course, some honey syrup, lemon, and smoke. And that 12-year scotch is not an accident. Sean Connery was only 12 years older than Harrison Ford in real life, and yet on screen, you believe their entire history between the two. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is often cited as the most fun indie film, and I will absolutely agree, even though Raiders happens to be my favorite movie of all time. But this is the one that gives the character soul. It asks a question most adventure films never dare to ask. What happens after the adventure? Who are you when the treasure doesn't matter anymore? And in that final ride off into the sunset, he doesn't ride off alone. Indy rides off with his closest friends and his father by his side, reconciled, whole. Here at Ford's, we're screening Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade on 4K disc, ultra high definition from our friends at Paramount Home Entertainment. We've linked below to our preferred copy, which you should definitely check out and add to your collection. Movies sometimes are more than just movies. They're memories, moments, lessons, learning to let go and still holding your head high. It's why it's important to not just watch a movie, but to really experience it. And that's the power of cinema. And here at the Film History Network, we celebrate it. I'm Matthew Charles Hall. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.